All right, for today, we're gonna take you through just some training tips on how I would run a basic class. And my subject is none other than Vincenzo over here, who I actually had a really cool Twitter interaction with. He was a gentleman who wanted nothing to do with CrossFit. I said, hey, come out to the barn, let's do a little bit and kind of see what you think of it. Your predisposition to it might be a little different than what it actually is. So he's been out here now for, what is this, your third or fourth week? Fourth week. We're going on a month. We did 1 week of intro, and then now we're on 3 weeks of just kind of regular class sessions. And so we're gonna run through real quick just kind of what happens in a general session and kind of how I look to get something done in about 45 minutes to an hour. And so right now we're actually jumping through the basic warm-up, or a general warm-up. So what I'm doing is taking him through some different movement patterns right now. So like right now he's kind of doing duck walk, moving across the floor, that are associated with the movements that we're gonna see in the workout. All of it's unweighted, all of it's body weight, a little bit of stretching in there, but not more than 30 seconds. And just those simple movements that are gonna kind of get his body prepped for the next part of the warm-up and workout, which is gonna be more of the specific warm-up, which is going to be very specific to the movements that are going to actually occur in the workout. So I'll use that for any kind of training session that I have. I'll start very general, move into a little bit more specific, do a short test round or a half round of kind of the workout, or some quarter rounds of the workout to kind of get the gist of how the flow should go, and then rest a minute, get some water, hit the workout. The first part of the workout session, we're going to work on a little bit of strength, especially since he's super new to doing any kind of the big three, deadlift, squat, or press. We did them last week, throw a barbell on him and kind of see how he moves with just an empty barbell, and then slowly add weight from there. Did really, really well. So we're gonna take the same rep scheme from last week, which was 12, 10, 8, 6. And I've got the weights written down that he used last week, and we're just gonna try to add 5 to 10 pounds this week and see if we can't maintain that technique and add a little bit of intensity by adding some poundage to the lifts. If it looks super easy, I'm gonna buffer that and add a little bit more weight, right? We haven't maxed out with him. That's not something I would do in the first month with a person who's just starting in any strength program or CrossFit or anything like that. You wanna get their movement dialed in under light loads where there's no or very little deviation from the technique that you're looking for. So what we're gonna do in today's session is not go for a max, just try to jump the weight up a little bit, give him a little bit more of a push than last week, and then jump into a couple more movements that are gonna get him ready for the workout for the day. All right, so we're in the middle of the strength session right now, and the way that I like to do my strength sessions is typically I don't use the time as a way to increase the intensity. So if we're lifting for strength, I like to give a lot of rest. You can definitely do that in some respect with the way that you play with the numbers or percentages. You can limit the time or the rest between sets to make the workout a little bit different, a little bit more intense. But in the case of today, we're taking a good 2 to 3 minutes in between each set. Plus we've got some bigger sets, 12, 10, 8, and 6, so we want a little bit more rest there. But the other thing that I try to focus on is I try to pick 1 or 2 things that are the biggest standouts for what Vince might be doing wrong, so or what he can do a little bit better, in addition to 1 or 2 things that he's actually doing correct, right? So those are the things that I'm going to focus in on while I'm talking to him. I don't want to overblow the session or come at him with 7 or 8 different things. It's like, hey, your eyes are down, your chest is low, your knees aren't tracking out, you're up on your toes, you're da-da-da, and just kind of overload him before he squats or during his squat. You know, we're taught we need to keep short, actionable cues, and just a few things that you want to correct that are the biggest glaring issues, or the ones that are putting him potentially at the most risk for failing the lift or putting his body in a compromised position. So those are the things that I'm kind of focused on right now. Okay, we're transitioning into the conditioning portion of the workout. They're shorter sprints, so 4-minute sprints with 3 different movements, rowing, power cleans, and burpees over a box. So we're gonna kind of go through those, brief them a little bit on what we want in terms of the technique for each one, specifically the power clean, especially since this is his first couple weeks. He's still kind of learning how to do that. He's progressed really well, but we're always gonna start out with the broomstick at first, just to try to get him a little bit more warmed up and make sure that we're hitting good positions before we transition into a barbell and throwing any weight on the bar. And catch. The 2 biggest things: keeping the bar close, right? Once it gets above that knee, right? And then when you catch, we're sitting back, receiving it in like the front squat position, not so much the knees forward position.
Okay.
But to start, I'm going to take you through mid shin, below the knee, above the knee, mid thigh, knee. And then I say go, I want you to go into the clean, okay? So they're 4 minutes, which isn't, you know, in some senses it's not a sprint, but in CrossFit terms it kind of is. It's a little bit of a shorter workout because we're changing the modality, we're moving around a lot, we're changing the movement. So you're gonna go for 4 minutes, 27 row calories, 21 power cleans, 15 burpee box jump over. And then if you get through 15 burpee box jump over, you're going to come back to 27 calories. Now, you do not have to get through one round of this. Okay, it may not even be designed that you get through one round. It's just meant that you are trying to sprint as fast as you can because you have a very short time domain here to get as much work done as possible. This 27 calories is going to eat up a lot of time if you lollygag on the rower. So your heart rate's going to be super high when you jump off this rower, and we're going to have to focus and pick up some weight off the floor in the power clean position. Right? It's part of why we went through that stuff. I want you to maintain those points of performance even though we're a little bit tired when we pick up that barbell. Okay. From there, we'll get into the burpee box jump over. So the last thing that we just went over before we started this workout, or while we were kind of briefing it, and what that short warm-up session was, is that these are kind of sprints, and I want to get him focused on what gear he needs to use for this workout. What is his attitude or frame of mind he needs to have when he's coming into the workout to get the intended stimulus. If I've got a 4-minute AMRAP written on the board, and I'm like, yeah, you know, just 4-minute AMRAP and get as many reps as possible, it's not going to have nearly the same intended effect as if I tell him, hey, you need to get after it on your first 27 calories. I want you to really iron it out and try to get to that bar as fast as possible because that's the stimulus we're looking for. Okay, a little bit of a shorter workout with some rest back into a second portion, right? So because we've got that scheduled rest in there, because it's only 4 minutes with the transition of movements and everything else, I really want to emphasize to a person who's new to it that, hey, we need to get after it today. You need to push that red line a little bit instead of just pacing or just taking it too easy, because that will miss part of the purpose of the workout. So taking him through a little cool down, we did a little minute easy on the rower, kind of bring the heart rate down easy, something to kind of keep moving after the workout, and then we're working on some stretching. A couple things we were able to identify through some other sessions. He has very, very tight hamstrings, as well as one of his glutes is super tight. So those are the things we're going to focus on and put priority on, and usually stretch for 90 seconds to 2 minutes at the minimum, right? So 90 seconds is going to be like a minimum amount of stretch time where you can feel the stretch, but you're not in pain, right? You just want to feel that stretch. As the muscle starts to loosen up, you can kind of increase that range of motion a little bit more, and then we're going to do the same thing up on this box with the pigeon stretch, but that usually wraps it up for the cool down for most of my classes. All right, so some tips for if you're coaching somebody who's new in your gym. One, definitely take them through an element session. If you don't have any kind of elements, to make sure that they can do basic body weight movements with the squat, deadlift, press, anything that revolves around those movements in terms of body weight, and you just try to throw them into a class, very bad idea. Make sure that they can control and manipulate their own body through the correct movements before you have them do any kind of weight. So Vince has been here, like I said, this is his 3rd or 4th week now, so I'm a little more confident to throw some load on him, challenge him a little bit. How I thought the session went: one, good back squat session. We definitely were able to push the pace a little bit. Again, with beginners, do not max out. Spend a month learning how to do the movements, if not more, especially for the more technique-driven movements like the clean and jerk and snatch, right? But for your general back squat, bench press, strict press, and deadlift, you definitely want to take a good month to build up the motor unit control patterns, like how they move, and make sure they can do the movement weight correctly with a barbell, as well as you're building up their muscles, their tendons, all those good things that maybe are undertrained. So you know newbies are going to get really sore right when they start, so you want to work through some of that soreness and get into the heavier lifts later on. So at least a month worth of training before you're going to start to think about pushing any kind of pace with anybody on a max. And also remember, a max does not mean that you fail, that the barbell falls off of your back, right? Building to what I call a heavy single is a great way to establish a heavy 1 rep max or 3 rep max for somebody who's new. You can use kind of the RPE, rating of perceived exertion, for that. Hey, how did that feel? And you can visualize and look and see how it looked. How was the bar speed coming up from the deadlift or squat or press, right? If it's super slow and they really had to grind it out and they're like, oh no, it's super easy, you know as a coach, like, no, you're done for the day. The next rep up or another jump up is probably going to fail you, or to the point where you have to drop the bar or something like that. So don't have to do that. Build to a heavy single is a great way to bring an athlete to a initial 1 rep, 3 rep, 5 rep max, something around that. In terms of the workout for today, I definitely pushed him a little bit in terms of the weight that I put on the barbell. This was more of a sprint than we've ever done together, so it definitely pushed his pace there as well. Wanted to challenge him a little bit on the power clean. In hindsight, I would have dropped the weight just a little bit in order for him to get a little bit more of a metabolic stimulus through it. So I made that adjustment in the second workout and eliminated some of the burpee portion on some of the box jump overs once he was halfway through, to kind of speed up some of the movement so he could get a little bit more of the sprint effect. The great thing about this though is not only can I look at it and make some adjustments for when we attack another sprint workout, but we're going to be able to take this workout and do it again. So we're going to be able to come back to it, measure, observe, and repeat, and see how we can get more reps, see how we can maybe conquer those power cleans and get through all 21 at 95 pounds in the first round. So we can repeat this and see how he's gotten fitter, gotten better at all of the movements, and gotten better at doing more of a sprint workout. So all in all, glad I made the adjustments I did. Should have made a couple maybe there at the start to make it a little bit more of a sprint, but great session. Vince crushes it. And if you guys have any other questions, comments about tips for training, coaching, anything like that, go ahead and throw them down in the comments below.